You're listening to the WBT Podcast with Michael Lodge. Listen to all of our podcasts at www.wbtpod.com. Stay informed. Let's get started.
So it's Political Tuesday. Every Tuesday, I sit down and talk about politics, taxes, and business, and how everything rolls in together. I didn't do it early this morning. Usually I record my podcast at about 7 a.m. in the morning so I can get everything out and ready. But I got so busy today because I'm preparing for tax season, getting all the forms and everything updated for the new tax season for my clients, that I forgot to do my Political Tuesday podcast, which is kind of good because during the course of the day, the Democratic leadership kind of acted like little children, little bratty little kids who are now wanting to shut down the government because they're not getting their own way. And if you remember right, Shummer and Pelosi were highly upset when the Republicans did the same thing. Oh, they thought it was terrible. They thought it was a disgrace to the nation, but it's okay for them to do it. And it's okay for them not to even show up to a budget talk with the president. And I can understand why the president thinks that they're not going to do anything. Because so far, Shummer and Pelosi have not come to the table with any new ideas. They haven't come to the table with anything. Instead, they want to act like little children and pout because they lost an election and they do not want to work with the president or the Republican Congress. This is dangerous to America when you have members of the Senate and members of the Congress who want to play politics instead of doing something for America. That is dangerous. So what do we do as Americans? Well, the first thing we do is we vote them out of office. I don't think they really realize that as they play these games, these political games, that they always forget that there is this silent majority that is sitting to the side, watching, listening, maybe even taking notes, who knows? But in the back of their minds, they see how dirty, rotten politicians have become when they do not put America first. Instead, they put the political party first or the political agenda first. So here we have a budget that needs to be talked about, and spending needs to be talked about, but the Democrats don't want to participate. They do not want to have their voices heard. And the only voice that you hear from the Democrats are from Pelosi and Schumer, who say, shame on the president, shame on the GOP. Everything that they do is evil. But where are their ideas? I haven't heard any. Not one single one have I heard any ideas coming out of the Democratic side. Now, I'm an independent, so I attack both sides. In a few minutes, you're going to hear me attacking the other side. But the issue that hurts Americans is when a party or leaders of a party will boycott a meeting with the president to talk about the economics of the government. So far, their way of thinking has not worked. Not one good thing for the economy has been done through government change through the Democrats. And we're just about ready to say the same thing. Well, we are saying the same thing right now with the GOP in the leadership role of both the Congress, the House of Representatives, and the Senate. We have leadership in the Senate at this very moment who can't get things done because they've got senators within their own party that hate Trump and will vote for hate instead of what's better for the American people. America has changed tremendously from when I was a boy until now. It used to be that politicians stretched their hands across the aisle and worked together for the good of the nation, not for the good of a party or a political agenda. So here we are sitting today with talks that need to happen between everybody in Congress on spending, on the budget, on increasing the spending amount that the government can do. But when you have leadership sitting out of these meetings, acting like spoiled children, acting like the worst spoiled children or the bullies out in the playground, just attacking but offering no value, we have a problem. And again, I point out the silent majority. As they watched over the last 8 years of how and what happened in this government, they're now watching it as Democrats act like fools by not working with the president. Honestly, we Americans should be highly inflamed about this. We should be on the phone, in our emails, faxes, whatever communication mechanism that we have to talk to these people who are representing you and me, that they'd better start doing their job. They don't seem to listen, do they? They don't seem to learn from past mistakes. They keep on pushing and pushing their own political agenda. Excuse me. So now we're going to talk about tax reform. Because now we've got several senators who are saying they're not going to vote for this bill or the bills that are being put together because they have this high and mighty view, and they're leaving office, they don't care, but they have this high and mighty view of themselves that they're trying to sell us on, and I don't believe it. It's crap. What I see it only as is are politicians who hate the president, who hate the other Republicans, and who hate Americans because they want something done. They want tax reform done. They want ACA repealed. They want several things done in this nation. But they don't care. Because they're going to put hate in front of the American people. Those that are voting no on a tax bill or a tax reform bill are putting their politics before the American people. And that's just the plain truth. And let's be honest with each other. That is the plain truth. They're not trying to do something high and mighty. They are trying to stop something from getting done. Politics and political agendas do no good for the American people. But if you've got common sense ideas and common sense views that are being molded and put together in the form of a bill that will help the American people, then that's what is needed. I am recording this at about 11 o'clock in the evening. And it is cold. It's probably about 28 degrees at the moment. And I notice that this dry air is affecting my voice and my lungs because there's just no moisture. You'll go into houses here in South Carolina where people have moisturizing machines or humidifiers going on because it affects everybody's voice. I'm going through that at the moment. So if I stop and cough, I'm sorry, but that's just something I have to do. But let's get back to Political Tuesdays. We as Americans have got to take back our country. And it will never happen if we just sit around and not get involved in what's happening in our nation. You should be following these politicians online. And when they say something stupid, call them out on it. Present them with data. Because normally what's happening is that the politicians out there are just spinning the spin of what they've been told to say. And then the people underneath them and all of the minions that follow them spin and spin and spin some more. No one has any data. They're just spinning. So we've got to get away from the spinning mode and get into the raw data. The data that supports whatever you believe in. Find that data. Don't quote bloggers. Don't quote the mainstream media. Find the data that's out there by independent agencies that are looking at these things day in and day out. You need to become more involved. I encourage you to become more involved. Look at your communities and see what's happening there. I tell you something that I'm kind of ashamed of, but I had to do it anyway. I had moved from, I'm still operating in California. I still have my offices there. I have my staff there. I go there and live there from time to time, but I also live over here in South Carolina. And so I decided to look up, how does South Carolina align itself as a state? I mean, how does it compare with other states? And there's an organization out there, I'm not going to give their name because I can't remember it at this moment. But what all they do is they look at every single state and rate them. They score them. They rate them on their judicial system. They rate them on taxes. They rate them on how the state operates and manages their fiscal side of the state. They look at a whole bunch of different things. And so I looked up South Carolina. And South Carolina got a big fat F because it's a corrupt state. And I guess it's corrupt because of a whole bunch of legislators and everybody had their hand in the till and were doing special deals with people, and it just became a state of nonsense. So now I'm having to follow the state of South Carolina and their nonsense, and I'm having to follow the corrupt state of California and their corrupt nonsense. But I felt as though that I had to get involved. And that's one of the reasons why I do this podcast, is because I feel that I can say what's on my mind as a citizen, within reason, using common sense to help and educate other people if I can. Now, a lot of you are not going to believe as I believe, which is okay. That's good, because that's what America is all about. But when you see things like what happened today with the Democrats boycotting a meeting with the president, I'm going to call them out on it, because I feel that it adds no value to you and me. And when I see senators standing up and condemning other people, condemning the president of their own party, I'm going to call them out on it. Because the way that they present is not of knowledge, but only of hate for an individual. And if you listen to what they're saying, take their words and examine what they're saying, they add no value to the process. And when I hear people like Handler, who is an entertainer out of Los Angeles, every day constantly putting down and calling people dumb who follow the president. And you see the same thing happening over and over and over again by other liberal Democrats. Chelsea Handler is probably one of the worst, and she's right up there with Gavin Newsom, the Lieutenant Governor of California, who never talks about the state of California and the issues within that state, but only bashes and bashes every single day everything that Trump does. And he's talking about things that have nothing to do with his state. Instead of addressing the 20% poverty rate in California, he doesn't do it. Instead, he pounds on the president. Instead of addressing the education and the problem with education in California, that we are 10th from the bottom of all states in education, from K through 12, he says nothing about that. He does nothing about that. Instead of talking about the crime rate that has risen in most of the cities in Los Angeles in Los Angeles and other cities in the state of California, Los Angeles went up by 50%. The crime rate did. Because the liberal legislature decided to release prisoners before their time because they said they were overcrowding. But he says nothing about that. He says nothing about the state of California, but he will attack the president every single day, but he doesn't address his own job as lieutenant governor. If he wanted to get things done, he could go to the legislature and say, hey, what can we do to make it better? Or he could go into those communities and say, what can we do as a state to help you lower your crime rate? But he doesn't do it because he's a liberal politician that would much rather push a political agenda than do what is right for Americans. So I ask you once again, get involved with what is happening in your states. Look at your local communities. Where are your problems and how can you address them as an individual? You can make a difference. I've heard this so many times. I can't do anything to change anything. You can by being proactive in working with people. Don't be like the Democrats and boycott the situation. Get involved in the situation. Bring people together. Even if you don't agree with them, bring them together so that you can get to that common goal to solve the problem. So I ask you again, get involved. Get involved and take back your communities, take back your states, and get involved in the issues that affect you, affect your neighbors, affect your children. Get involved. But as of today, I'm highly disappointed that the Democrats will not come to the table and act like adults and work with the president, work with the GOP. If you have ideas, let's hear them. But so far, I have heard nothing. Nothing. I have heard a lot of condemnation. I've heard you condemn every single thing that is proposed by the GOP. But to be honest with you, we heard the same thing when Obama was president. We heard the very same thing of how they were not going to work with Obama. But that was a whole mess all by itself. Here today, we have the American people who have told these people, this is what we want done. But they refuse to do it because we have politicians who want to play politics and not do what the American people say. That is the biggest shame of this nation. That is what hurts our democracy. So we need to do better. We need to get involved. You and me both. We need to get involved. Study what's going on out there every single day. Don't read the newspaper on politics, because you are going to get the worst information out there. Take what each of these politicians are saying, grind it down, and come to your own conclusions. And if that conclusion isn't what you feel is right, take them on. Challenge them. And if we don't start challenging more, we're going to lose this country in our democracy, because politics will then control your life and my life. And we will have nobody working for us, but we will be working for them. So that's my Political Tuesday. For those of you in California, if you want to get involved in the repeal of the gas tax and the repeal of the sanctuary state law that Brown has signed into law, go to my podcast webpage, which is www.wbtpod.com. Click on the icon up at the right-hand corner that says Get Involved. Sign the petitions, volunteer your time, do whatever it takes to repeal the gas tax and to repeal the sanctuary state. We cannot have this. California cannot have this. So for those of you in California, if you want to get involved, go to my webpage, click on the Get Involved tab, and get involved. You're an American, get involved. You're California, get involved. So that's it for today. This week, the Senate is going to be voting on the tax reform, as I understand it. I think Thursday is the date of the vote. We'll have to watch this very carefully. If the GOP cannot pass this, they're toast. They are really toast. They're gone. Because people can no longer believe the campaign promises that they said they were going to do. McCain made that campaign promise. Everybody that is opposing this made a campaign promise to reform tax. It's amazing, isn't it, that they say one thing but do another because of politics. I don't know about you, but when somebody makes a promise to me, I hold them to that promise. If they break their promises to me, yep, they've lost their job. It's not worth it. So let's get involved. It's 11 o'clock at night. We have several more hours to go on this tax reform. If you want to write your senators and your congressmen to get their acts together and vote for this through, do it. You still have time. Google your congressman. Google your senator. And send them an email. Flood them with emails. Flood them with faxes. Flood them with calls. Do whatever you have to do to keep them from breaking their promise again. So that's it for today. I'm done. It's been a long day. I'll talk with you tomorrow. This is Mike Lodge for the WBT.
This is brought to you by Lodge & Co., a business and tax advisory firm where your success is our goal. Call us today toll-free at 888-681-1518 or visit us at www.lodge-co.com and learn more about what we can do for you. Lodge & Co., your source for sound business and tax services.
Thank you for listening to the WBT with Michael Lodge. Join us again tomorrow as we explore more about business and taxes. Follow us on iHeartRadio and go to our podcast website at www.wbtpod.com and listen to all of our podcasts and read our blogs.
World of business and taxes.